We have new information on the teenage girl accused of orchestrating the murder of her boyfriend. Gianna Kirstenmacher was a high school cheerleader. Now she's accused of murder. She's one of 9 teenagers accused of murder in the death of Trey Wright. And now we're hearing shocking allegations of how she acted allegedly on the night that Trey Wright was killed.
When she stepped away from people, she had this look on her face and I just really didn't understand it.
We'll dive into that, and we also talk about why 7 of the 9 teens charged with murder in this case are out on bond. We're on the case, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Chris Stewart. Trey Wright was a life of the party teenager, we've been told, a friend who never met an enemy. He lost his life on June 24th in small town South Carolina. Since his death, Trey Wright's story has spread across the country, far from small town South Carolina, because partly there are 9 teenagers charged with murder. The person who's accused of firing the shot that killed Wright was someone who Wright considered a friend, we're told. But this girl, Gianna Kirstenmacher, is the one who is perhaps the most shocking suspect in this case because she was Trey Wright's girlfriend. They had just started dating, but he really liked her.
Gianna and Trey had been dating, but I think they only were dating like for a month, maybe 2 months. But he was getting to the point where he really did like her. It was different from any of the other girls he had been around. He actually wanted to go out his way and be with her. He put everything aside.
That's Jasmine Louderback. Trey was murdered outside her house. The shooting happened around 11:30 that night in Johnsonville, South Carolina. Jasmine told me she rushed to Trey's side and comforted him as he gasped for air, as her dad and a police officer tried to treat him before he was brought to the hospital where he died. Jasmine told us that most of the teens charged in this murder were acquaintances of Trey, but 2 of the 9 teenagers were people who Trey knew. You had Gianna Kirstenmacher and Devin Raper. Now, Trey and Devin followed each other on TikTok, and Jasmine said that they had just started hanging out. They would go to Myrtle Beach to go to truck shows there, and Trey actually considered Devin Raper a friend. Police say it was Raper who fired the shots that ended Trey's life. He's still being held without bond in the Florence County Jail. The person who's accused of orchestrating Trey's murder is the high school cheerleader who he was really starting to like, we're told. Deputies say Gianna Kirstenmacher brought Devin Raper to meet Trey Wright the night of his death, knowing that Raper was armed and that there was going to be a confrontation that, according to law enforcement, would lead to injury or death. Law enforcement writes that Trey and Raper were at odds over a girl the night that Trey died, and there were provocative Snapchat messages leading up to the altercation. Trey's mom told the Daily Mail that her son met Gianna through Devin Raper, and another friend said that they believed that Gianna wanted the 2 to fight, that this was a love triangle. But on the night of Trey's murder, any desire to have a confrontation on Gianna's part was not apparent to those trying to help Trey Wright on scene. Louderback said she had just met Gianna as she rushed to help her friend. Had you ever met Gianna?
That night was the first time I'd ever met her.
And again, I know there's things that you can say and you can't say. I mean, but she was still on scene. I guess like you saw her there when you went outside.
Yes, sir. She was still on scene. She stayed on scene till he went to the hospital, and then she went to the hospital. But his mom and them didn't know anything till I got there, or the other kids got there to let her know what was going on, because I wasn't the person who could tell her that on the phone, and I was the one who called.
According to Louderback, Gianna was playing the role of the shocked and scared girlfriend, which, by the way, could be very true. She even went to the hospital to be with Trey as he fought for his life. That was a fight that he lost that night. When you first met her in that situation, like what was her body language? What did it seem like in that moment?
She kind of threw me off because she was acting like she didn't know what was going on, like she was hurt. And then I don't know, when she stepped away from people, she had this look on her face and I just really didn't understand it.
What was like a angry look, or what was it like?
She seemed like when she got in front of people, she was kind of freaking out like we were, but like when she walked away, she seemed calm. Like, she called her parents, told her parents what was going on, and she was shaky in her voice, but she was still pretty calm on the phone with her parents.
And it kind of similar question as I asked with Devin, because, when it comes out that she's dating this person who passes away and loses their life in this terrible fashion, and then according to police, they said, she was the orchestrator of everything. Like, what was that like for you when her name first came up, you see her mugshot, and then you actually hear what the deputies who investigated say she did?
I just didn't really know what to say because I don't. Trey was the kind of person that everybody loved. Nobody really had anything that they didn't like about him. So I just didn't understand what made her do this. Because Trey's like, if you tell him you don't want to be with him, he's fine. He might be hurt for a little bit, but he'll go on with his life. It's not that big of a deal to him.
But Jasmine says she also saw something else that night in Gianna Kirstenmacher. At first, the authorities charged Kirstenmacher with accessory before the fact, but then her charge was upgraded to murder. Others who are also charged with murder in this case, and here are their mugshots. Two of them are minors, and their names have not been released. Devin Raper and another suspect, Hunter Kendall, are the only two who have not been granted bond. Law enforcement have charged the others with similar wording as they have Kirstenmacher in saying that they knew Devin Raper allegedly was armed the night that he allegedly killed Trey Wright, and they knew there was going to be a confrontation. An arrest report reads that when Trey Wright allegedly approached the car that Raper was allegedly in, Wright started banging on the window, and at that point, gunshots were fired. The report also said that someone in the car was wearing a ski mask. Before we get back to this episode of On the Case, which is one of the most watched shows on YouTube, I need to talk about our partner and sponsor, Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm. They have more than 1,000 attorneys and they win a lot. They've recovered over $25 billion from more than 500,000 clients. In the past few months, a client in Florida received $12 million after the insurance company offered just $350,000. In Pennsylvania, a client was awarded $26 million. That is 40 times the insurer's $650,000 offer. Another client in Pennsylvania received $29 million after being offered only $500,000. Even if you don't think your case is worth millions of dollars, why not fight for what you deserve? Morgan & Morgan makes it so easy to start a claim. You can do it with just 8 easy clicks on your phone. So if you've been injured and you need to start a claim, go to www.forthepeople.com/OTC. You can also scan this QR code on your screen or click the link below. The 7 suspects out of jail were granted $20,000 bonds, which may seem low for such a serious charge like murder. I asked South Carolina civil rights and criminal defense attorney Tyler Bailey about that.
And the first thing that went to my head was that this is kind of an unprecedented way to use the hands of one, hands of all jurisprudence, which is something that's used often in South Carolina involving gun crimes or possession of drugs. But I haven't seen it much with murder, especially when you have 9 young people. And it also appears to be a way for the local government and sheriff's office to probably combat youth violence, looking at a way to send a message that, young people and kids, teenagers, school starting back, don't assist people who have firearms and are about to engage in altercation, because you have 9 kids or young adults, some teenagers, some 18 or older, who actually helped the accused get to the victim, and the victim tragically lost his life. So it's really unprecedented on those fronts. And then the bail also seems to be low because these are serious allegations the kids or young people, let me rephrase that, are charged with, but the bond does not seem indicative of the seriousness of the crime, which leads me to believe that this could be a way or a tool to get them all involved in the case by law enforcement and then possibly work out deals south from there.
Yeah, because it's from what we know, several of the suspects have been released on $20,000 bonds. The man, Devin Raper, who is accused of firing the shots, he is still being held without bond. What will prosecutors have to prove in these cases of the associates of the person they say fired the shots? What will they need to prove if they were to take these to trial?
They'll need to prove that the associates knew that the accused was going to the location with the intent to commit murder. murder of somebody. And they're using the fact that they assisted him. They knew that he had a weapon and they knew he was going to the altercation, but they're going to need to prove there was intent on the front of the associates that this was going to occur, which is tough. Providing assistance, accessory before the fact of the crime is easier to prove than it is actually that they all participated in the murder with the intent, knowing that the accused was going to go there and he was going to commit a murder by shooting the victim who tragically lost his life. And that's a steep hurdle for the prosecution to make here.
Because Gianna Kirstenmacher, who is reportedly the girlfriend of the victim, and she was the first co-suspect with Devin Raper who was arrested, and it was believed that she was the one, according to law enforcement, who orchestrated this, knowing that the two of them were at odds, that Devin Raper was armed, and that she was bringing Devin Raper to meet Trey Wright, and then it ends in sadly, Trey Wright's death. And originally she was charged with accessory before the fact, and now she is facing a charge of murder. What is the difference between the two?
Accessory before the fact means that they provided assistance to the defendant or the accused here to further his ability to commit the crime. Accessory after the fact is when they provide assistance afterwards with knowledge. But accessory before the fact means that she knew that he was going to go there and he wanted to, use his firearm to engage in murder or attempted murder or something like that. And she helped him do it by orchestrating the whole thing. Murder, which is a lot of a steeper hurdle, means that she went there and actually helped him commit the murder. It's a little difference. It's a legal distinction.
Now, you heard Tyler say hand of one, hand of all. That stems from a 1988 South Carolina Supreme Court case that decided if a crime is committed by two or more people who are acting together in the commission of a crime, then the actions of one person is the act of the others involved. As far as the bonds, there has been criticism for how many suspects were not just allowed bond, but such low bonds. And this picture certainly has made that criticism louder. These are two of the newest suspects that we've learned about who have been charged with murder in this case, 17-year-old Braylon Thompson and 17-year-old Jaden O'Clair. Both were granted $20,000 bonds, and court records show that they posted bond on the same day. That was August 6th. And then we found this picture of a Snapchat post allegedly made by Thompson of him and O'Clair outside of the Florence County Detention Center. It shows the two of them posing. O'Clair seems to be throwing up a peace sign, and Thompson has a finger in his mouth, showing his teeth like he has a grill. Now, the caption to this picture was, "I'm free," and then a racial slur that I will not say, but I will tell you it begins with the letter N. I reached out to the Florence County Sheriff to see if they were aware of this post, and they told me they were. It's unclear what led to Thompson and O'Clair's charges in this case. The prosecutor told a local television station, WPDE, that once they were made aware of that Snapchat post, they filed a motion to modify bond conditions to prevent any more social media posts by the suspects. In the statement, they did not mention Thompson and O'Clair by name. Social media has played a big part in this story, not only because it shows that Raper and Wright knew each other and that there were provocative Snapchats allegedly sent the night of Trey's murder, and that played a role allegedly in this confrontation with Devin Raper, but also after the murder of Trey Wright, we found a social media post of Corinne Belviso. She is now facing a charge of murder. On June 25th, that is the day after Trey Wright was killed, this is what she posted. It's a link to the GoFundMe page for Trey Wright saying, quote, "They've made a GoFundMe to help Trey's family. If you're able to donate, anything will help. Trey was one of my friends. We're heartbroken. To know him was to love him. LLT." And that stands for Long Live Trey, which has been the battle cry of those remembering him and calling for justice for his death. Belviso's lawyer told WPDE that his client is innocent. He said, quote, "It's really simple. She's not guilty of anything. We've hashed through stories. She's talked with the police. I'm shocked she was charged, and I will defend this case with every breath I have. She's not guilty of anything." Now, we'll see how the legal process will play out in this case. It's a case that in many ways is unprecedented, as you heard Tyler Bailey say, because of how many people are charged and the way this case has been charged. Law enforcement said that they did not take charging so many people with murder lightly. But at the end of the day, this is also a story about a young man who is loved by so many people who is now dead, who had his entire life ahead of him, and that was taken away. Here's our full interview with Jasmine Louderback, the girl who said she rushed to Trey's side the night of his murder, and she lost someone who she considered a brother. Jasmine, how did you know Trey Wright?
Trey started off as just a family friend from the neighbors next door, but then he was over at our house almost every day, so he quickly became family, and he was like a little brother to me.
And was he living with you at the time that everything happened?
At the time, he was staying with me, but he did not live with me.
Okay. And I know that it isn't easy to talk about, but can you explain what you saw the night that he lost his life?
As soon as I came out the doors, he was already lying in the middle of the road. My dad was over top of him. He wasn't really performing CPR because he had seen that Trey got shot kind of where his lungs were. So he was just compressing his chest so that Trey would be able to breathe. And the officer was standing right beside my dad.
What were you doing in that moment?
In that moment, all I could do was just go to Trey's side, but I had to kind of tell him that he was okay and everything was going to be okay, that he didn't need to try and say anything. He just needed to try and breathe and stay awake for us.
What was going through your mind in I mean, that's such a difficult situation to be in. How did you handle all that?
In the moment, it was really just an adrenaline rush that helped me handle it because I didn't want to see him like that, but I couldn't make myself get away from him. I knew that he had my dad, but I know he needed someone else. But I did eventually have to get away because I needed to figure out if somebody had done called his mom or his grandma or somebody to get them either out here with us or either to the hospital.
What do you remember about I know all of this happened, I think around 11:30, between 11:30 and midnight. What was Trey doing prior to that?
Prior to that, it was really just a normal day. The kids had went to the river right down the road from my house like they always do. They were just playing around, jumping off the bridge. They had came home, they were still goofing off in the yard, just hanging out.
Where did all of this happen?
All of this happened at my house.
So this is right, because I know I've seen pictures of the road and we have the address from police. What is that for people who have never been there? What is that area like?
That area is really just everybody knows everybody. We're not blood, but we all consider each other family. Usually when people come down there, they feel safe because where I'm from, no matter whose kid it is, everybody's gonna look out for them.
Was that like a hangout spot for people? Because I know like just based off of what we've been told by law enforcement, it just seems like there was a lot of people there.
That's just usually how my brother and them are. They have a lot of friends, and most of their friends' parents don't really let them go out like that. So my house was like a safe space for everybody. So usually my house was the hangout place for most of the kids.
When you say your brother, do you mean Trey?
Trey and my other little brother.
Other little brother.
Yeah.
What do you want people to know about Trey Wright?
Trey was really just an amazing person. He wasn't really physical. He never really argued like that. He was just a goofball.
Yeah, and it seems like just from the pictures and we see a lot of outpouring of support on social media from people who met him that he seems like in a lot of ways just such a life of the party um type person. I
He
know it's
really
not.
was.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for you, like I mean, you've been through a lot, not only with Trey, but I mean, what you've experienced at such a young age, like how have you handled the last several weeks?
It's really just been mostly a blur. I take it day by day because I'm used to being around Trey every single day. He considered me his sister too, so we just had that bond. He would pick on me, I would pick on him, And now that he's not here, it's just kind of like dull.
What did you know about, I know the name Gianna is one that's come up, and um, he was apparently dating her, from what I've read. I mean, what was their relationship?
Gianna and Trey had been dating, but I think they only were dating like for a month, maybe 2 months. But he was getting to the point where he really did like her. It was different from any of the other girls he had been around. He actually wanted to go out his way and be with her. He put everything aside.
Because there's so many people that have been charged in connection to his death, I mean, are these people he knew? Or like what was the relationship with all these people who had come together?
I feel like the only two people he really knew like that were Devin and Gianna, and even those people, he had just started hanging out with Devin in the springtime. So they've only knew each other a couple months. And I just feel like most of those kids were just acquaintances. I've never heard their names from that night. Like that night was the first time I'd ever heard most of those names.
What has it been like seeing those names though? You see their mug shots. Um, you see the charges that they're faced with, and you saw what happened that night, and you've lived it. What's it been like to just see all of those people and what police say they did?
It's just really crazy. Like, I don't understand how there's that many people around the situation and kind of have an idea what's about to happen, but don't tell their friend to like stop and think about this or we don't need to do this. It's really insane to me.
Because he knew Devin Raper. Um, did he ever say anything about him, or what was their relationship?
He never really said anything about him. They just hung out mostly. Trey liked to come to the beach a lot. He was into the truck shows and stuff, so Devin knew where to go, what to do. So they were really just friends through that. Devin had never came and hung out with Trey in Johnsonville or anything like that.
But they were, to your understanding, I mean, like friendly with each other in some ways.
Yes, sir. I do. I believe they were friends. I don't know what clicked that night or what went on that night to come about this, but it was never really bad blood between any of them.
What was the moment like for you when you were told that he was the one who deputies say did this to Trey?
I was mostly just in shock. Like, I didn't understand because I figured it would be somebody who, Trey had an altercation with or something, even though he never really argued with anybody. I didn't think it'd be someone who Trey was hanging out with constantly and going to the beach with.
Had you ever met Gianna?
That night was the first time I'd ever met her.
And again, I know there's things that you can say and you can't say. I mean, but she was still on scene. I guess like you saw her there when you went outside.
Yes, sir. She was still on scene. She stayed on scene till he went to the hospital, and then she went to the hospital. But his mom and them didn't know anything till I got there, or the other kids got there to let her know what was going on. Because I wasn't the person who could tell her that on the phone, and I was the one who called.
And I know just from reading the police report, and I mean you were there, that it sounds like it was a very like hectic scene, and there was just a lot of emotion and people screaming. I mean, what w- when you first met her in that situation, like what was her body language? What did it seem like in that moment?
She kind of threw me off because she was acting like she didn't know what was going on, like she was hurt. And then I don't know, she just when she stepped away from people, she had this look on her face and I just really didn't understand it.
What was like a angry look, or what was it like?
She seemed like when she got in front of people, she was kind of freaking out like we were, but like when she walked away, she seemed calm. Like she called her parents, told her parents what was going on, and she was shaky in her voice, but she was still pretty calm on the phone with her parents.
And it kind of similar question as I asked with Devin, because, when it comes out that she's dating this person who passes away and loses their life in this terrible fashion, and then according to police, they said, she was the orchestrator of everything. Like, what was that like for you when her name first came up, you see her mugshot, and then you actually hear what the deputies who investigated say she did?
I just didn't really know what to say because I don't. Trey was the kind of person that everybody loved. Nobody really had anything that they didn't like about him. So I just didn't understand what made her do this. Because Trey's like, if you tell him you don't want to be with him, he's fine. He might be hurt for a little bit, but he'll go on with his life. It's not that big of a deal to him.
And I know there's been a lot of, at least outside of your community, questions about the bond because 7 of the 9 suspects are out on bond. What has been some of the reaction? I mean, your family, friends, I mean, some of these suspects, and I actually believe all 7 out on bond, it's a $20,000 bond, which isn't incredibly high for someone who's charged with murder.
We're mostly angry because they did get out on bond. We don't see, they all helped in some type of way. And we just don't understand how they could get a bond when they're all charged with murder.
We have that picture of Braylon Thompson and Jaden Auclair outside the Florence County Detention Center. We reached out to law enforcement. They said they were aware of this picture. If you've seen that, um, what was your reaction when you saw them posing, knowing what they're accused of?
I feel like they think it's funny. I don't really, they don't feel no sympathy or remorse. And they know that they got away with a slap on the wrist right now. So I just think they think it's a joke.
And I don't know if you also saw, I think it was Corinne Belviso. She had posted the GoFundMe for Trey Wright on her Facebook page a couple days after. If you had seen that, and she's now charged as well and was let out on bond. What was your reaction when you saw that?
I kind of figured it was going to happen because Corinne was trying to talk to me that night, but I had already figured out what happened, so I didn't want to hear anything from her. And she was like, I just rode here. I just rode here. I didn't do anything. I didn't believe it, not one bit. And I still don't believe it to this day. And then she tried to tell me that I didn't need to watch Trey get taken away in the ambulance. But I had already seen him shot and on the ground. So what's the ambulance going to do?
Mm. Um, and for you, I mean, to come out and speak about this, I know this isn't easy. Like, and I know you've done a couple other interviews, your family is speaking. Why is it important for you to speak about Trey Wright?
I just want his story to get out there. I don't want them to get away with what they did. I just don't want this to go unheard because with today's world, it's really bad with teens getting shot and teens killing teens.
Yeah, what is it about? Because that's the thing for me on the outside, seeing the Snapchat, seeing, I know Devin Raper, there's a picture of him holding a gun and like flashing it to the camera. And you have this terrible scene, and for them, they could go to prison for a long time as well. And it seems like, how is it that these people do not seem to at least take the allegations seriously, at least from what we've seen from these social media posts?
I truly don't understand it because they all know what part they had in it. And most of them, Devin was calling a mutual friend of Trey's and basically laughing before he got arrested, saying that the cops weren't coming to get him and basically just taunting us and harassing us on the phone.
And even you were harassed on the phone by Devin.
He didn't physically say anything to me, but it was a group of our family and Trey's friends that crowded around the phone to hear what Devin had to say because he had tried to say that he didn't do anything.
Is there anything I missed or anything you'd want people to know as now there is just so much attention on this story?
I just really hope people learn that this is not the way that they need to go about things. I don't agree with violence at all. I really feel like most situations could just be talked out instead of having to get physical or violent.
Yeah, and again, Trey Wright just seemed like a great guy, someone that you'd want to be friends with. Jasmine,
He
I'm so
really
sorry.
was.
I'm so sorry for your loss. Thank you for talking with us. Again, I know this isn't easy, but we really appreciate your time.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all.
That will do it for On the Case, presented by Law&Crime. Subscribe to us on YouTube and Spotify. I'm Chris Stewart. We'll see you next time.